Good morning and welcome to the M&M show. It's Miles Davis and Matthew Hemming here at Vin and Fine Wines. We've just returned from Bordeaux. Matthew spent the whole week there last week. I joined him for a couple of days and we've got a pretty clear impression of what the vintage was like. And so I'm going to hand you over to my good friend Matthew here to give us an overview. Morning, Matthew.
Hello, hi everybody. Good morning, Miles. How's it going? I think, look, let's cut to the chase because nobody wants another long, boring video of us two. On reflection, at the end of a week out there tasting, I'm left pondering whether or not 2025 is potentially the best, most exciting vintage I've ever tasted on Primeur. I've been doing these barrel tastings in just about 20 years now. Tasted some seriously good vintages. And I think this one has got some of the biggest thrills.
Well, that's very good to hear. So please just run us through the biggest characteristics of the vintage.
Aside from the wine quality and style, the thing that I found most striking was how quickly the wines disengaged my cynicism. I went out, I'd heard everything: small vintage, hot vintage, dry vintage. I'm thinking this all adds up to kind of solar wines. Do we need another one of those? It's definitely not fashionable to like 15, 18, even 22 that much these days. And I was expecting concentration, heaviness, expensive. And all of a sudden I get hit with wines that have a really cool fruit profile, really moderate alcohol levels, bright acidities, vivid fruit, and I just wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, likewise, exactly the same. And clearly through some of the conversations we had with winemakers, the farming techniques have come on such a long way. Rose and Segler were particularly good, I thought, at explaining about their canopy management and their cool room where they stick the grapes for 24 hours before pressing them. Lots of interesting new developments, techniques, etc.
Yeah, I think I was writing one of these reports yesterday, and climate change has definitely got the potential to kill the golden goose that the Bordelais have, and so really they're left with no choice but to work out strategies to maintain their classic style and be able to keep producing the wines that have given them this incredible status and position in terms of global fine wine. And I don't mean in terms of pricing or sort of commercial dominance, just that style, which is very unique, that sort of Atlantic influenced climate of mid-weight savory wines. And I think they found an answer that takes cutting edge farming, agronomy, whatever you want to call it, and bang up to date winemaking techniques. And using these things in combination, they've been able to navigate a channel through all the challenges that climate change is throwing up. Because we're not in the era of climate change, we're kind of post that now. It's here, it's to stay. This was a super hot, super dry vintage. People are talking about records being broken for the number of days over 40 degrees. And yet the wines simply do not taste like that.
Yeah, no, they've done a hell of a good job. So obviously, price allowing, you will definitely be putting some 25s in your cellar.
Yeah, I think so. It's difficult to get off the hamster wheel, right? Isn't it? Yeah. Just to rewind very briefly, there's something I was thinking about yesterday, and I think it's quite an elegant little soundbite, even if I do say so myself. I think in the winemaking side of things, it's more about technique than it is technology. And I think that's really important because, you can throw loads of machines and gadgets at this stuff. In the early 2000s, the 90s, people using, reverse osmosis, vacuum concentration. You can use a lot of this stuff to take alcohol out. You can acidify, you can use spinning cones, you can do all this wizardry. But actually, we've all become a bit allergic to that degree of intervention. And where they've come up with a kind of a triumph now in the winemaking is, I think it's technique over technology. It's about knowing as much what not to do or what to do gently than it is about, you know, where to make an intervention. And that's actually a huge step for Bordeaux, because it's not that many years ago, is it, when we'd go and there'd be all these shiny stainless steel machines in the wineries.
Yeah, that's very true. Good point. Right, well, I'm going to cut it there. Thank you very much for your time, as ever, Matthew.
Not at all. Cheers.